Hello there, and welcome once again to Reinvent Your Impact. I'm delighted that you're here with me, where I share advice and skills that you can use every day to help you become a better, more confident woman in leadership. I'm Dr. Geneva, leadership expert, and I believe that with the right mindset and skills, any woman can positively influence and impact communities, your teams, your staff, and the causes you really care about. And you don't need a fancy title to lead change, whether you run a company or a club. If you coach a kids softball team, or you organize volunteers, or you lead in your church, in your family, you can grow and share your gifts. Now, my goal is to give tools and inspiration to turn your influence into greater impact so that you can make those great choices and encourage others' talents and create the needed progress on issues, big and small, from where you stand, where you are. When women lead confidently from their strengths, families, organizations, and communities thrive. Now, today's lessons share some tips to shift our mindset around dealing with big life changes, instead of letting these transitions that happen hold us back before because they feel kind of scary or painful. We'll learn how to smash through the discomfort. Okay. So I want to bring up our quote for the day. Change can be scary, but you know what's scarier? Now, this is from Mandy Hill, and this is what she believes: allowing fear to stop you from growing, evolving, and progressing is more scarier than the change itself. So, you know, what we do know is that actual progress and growth requires courage and the willingness to pivot boldly when life changes, come upon us. I think what Mandy Hale is saying is that, again, while it feels easier to avoid the uncertainty and fear that come from major life changes or shifts, that allowing that discomfort and the fear that we have to block taking chances is far more detrimental. I'd love to know what you think about that. If you agree, put a yes in the comments, whether you're here live or on the replay. And if you're enjoying this conversation and content, please subscribe. Now, what is important, I think, is for us to lean into these life changes that we might be experiencing directly rather than avoiding them. And when we do that, that kind of powers up our reinvention or whatever it is that we're trying to become more of, to move forward in a more positive words. In other words, tackling transitions uh, head on keeps propelling our continual growth versus ducking from them, and which can really continue to leave us stuck. So, in today's lesson, we're really talking about finding opportunity in change. So, you may be asking me, Dr. Geneva, well, how do we do that? Let's talk about three things. Um, One, I think it's important for us to um, identify the lessons we've learned. Okay. So, what I mean by that is that we think about what emerged from a transition or a change or something that happened. And I'd like you to think about in your mind some big change that might have recently happened to you. What did you learn? What are some of the skills or strengths you took out of that? I remember when I made the transition from big change for me from being in the leading in the nonprofit world into becoming a business owner. And that was a kind of big change for me. And at the same time, I was scared. I was kind of fearful of all of that, what would happen, what would do. But the strengths that I found, and then the skills that I had in my long years of career really helped me because I knew how to plan. I knew how to talk and communicate. I had a great network of people that I had worked with over the years, and I knew how to get money because that's what I did in the nonprofit world. I raised over $100 million for various business and community causes. And so when I stopped, and I had to intentionally stop myself and think about, well, rather than the the fear and the uncertainty and not being sure of myself, let me stop for a moment and think about what skills and strengths I bring into this new scary venture. And so, and that became more important. And so I think that's what Mandy Hale is trying to suggest to us, that yes, me moving into being a businesswoman, or you having that experience of transitioning from one career to another, or going from having a house full of children to now you're an empty nester, or losing a loved one, that yes, that's scary. There's fear there, but we can't let that stand in the way from growing. So, the first point I want to make here is that it's important for us to look at and identify what skills and strengths we have during this transition. And a client of mine, I'll share, uh, was leading this initiative, very important initiative at her job, co-leading it. And the colleague that she was partnering with to lead, and it was a major thing at her company, her colleague got another gig, another job, and left. And so while on one hand, she really was going through that loss of losing someone that she worked with a lot, respected, and they were doing this major project together. So she was dealing with that transition again, this change, unexpected. Yet, here was this opportunity for her to, okay, step up and do this alone, which she ended up doing. We talked about it a lot. And I encouraged her to, hey, you've got this. I know it's going to be scary, but look at the growth and opportunity potential. So she did. She stepped up. She did. She got tremendous accolades, and her career continued to bloom and move forward. The point is, in these scary times, we can find opportunity. Okay, the second thing I'd like you to think about is to reframe the obstacles that you might see or might be in your way. So, in other words, consider how current setbacks or these gaps that you're feeling really represent a chance to do something different, perhaps uplift someone else. So then, in other words, you reconfigure your thinking about these obstacles. For example, perhaps if you're in a company or a not leading a nonprofit or working with others, that you can help someone else, perhaps mentor a younger colleague and be seen as an inspiration for up and coming women. So, in other words, there might have been this setback that happened in your place of work, something that really didn't go good for you. Look for that obstacle, reframe it, and say, well, there is something here. It was a setback. I thought things were going well, but they weren't working out, and it's a setback to my career. No, don't look at that. Maybe think about, okay, so what can I do to move forward? What kinds of things can I do different? How can I, in fact, evolve or progress? Well, if you're in an organization and you got some experience, which I know you do, why not reach out to someone else, uplift someone else, be a mentor, and reframe that so called setback and say, no, I got my stuff going on. Not only am I going to keep moving forward, I'm going to help somebody else. Reframe, rethink about that obstacle, and give yourself an extra bonus by reaching out and helping someone else. And then the third point I'd like to make as we're thinking about and looking at finding opportunity in change is for you to journal your insight. So these things that you've learned as you're, reflecting on your skills and strengths, and you're using them in a new transition, in a new way, as you're reframing and relooking at the setbacks and obstacles that are standing in your way, you got to journal about it. Write it down. It's an excellent technique to use and really helps you reflect on pivotal moments. And those are those times that make a difference. And really, the only time that you can capture them is when you give yourself some quiet time, some time to, think and relax and prepare yourself for what's next. So, a friend of mine had a real health scare, and it really served as a wake up call for her in terms of how she took care of herself. And so this was a heavy transition. This was a change. This was a challenge to her health and her well being. And she started journaling the things that she learned during this process. And as she was doing that, it helped her figure out some of the new next steps that she could and needed to take. So this challenge, this transition was like a wake up call to her. And she decided to move past that fear and really grow, evolve, and progress, as Mandy Hale is suggesting to us that yes, and of course that scare, that health thing, it was scary. Who wouldn't be scared of a major health challenge? Absolutely. But what happened was that she allowed herself to not be overwhelmed by the fear, but rather use the technique of journaling what she was seeing, what she was learning, the insights, using that to challenge those scary feelings that she was having so that she, in fact, could move forward. So, those are the points that I wanted to make. And I want to ask you, what's one obstacle that you're facing today that you can reframe into an opportunity? I'd love for you to share that in the comments. Let me know. And I'd love for you to write down at least one personal insight or revelation that you gained from some major change that you've been going through. And we all go through them. So I know there's a whole bunch of things that you can identify. I'd like you to think about that and write it down. And just write one thing that you learned from that transition. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. More importantly, that you've gotten some value from it. I'll see you the next time. And remember, I want you to be the leader only you can be. See you next time.